good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our Institution of Global Professionals International Training. And this is another brand new episode for tonight, webinar number 679. The topic is Dynamic Assessment and Educational Inclusivity. My dear lovely audience, thank you for joining with us in this marvelous moment. And please, it's my humble request to all of you, stay with us till the end of our program. Dear participants, dear knowledge seeker, we will learn a lot from tonight's session because we have our speaker for tonight. Yes. So, dear participants, once again, I'm your host Nasrin Nisha from Bangladesh for this session. So, my dear lovely audience, if you want to feed your skills, you have to learn a lot. You have to be with IGP. So, if you want to gather knowledge, if you want to grow up, you should not stop learning. Yes, and we believe and we know that power is gained by sharing knowledge, not holding it. So you have to share your knowledge with your family person, your colleagues, your lovable ones, and your family members. Also with your friends. So you have to start share right now this live session in your newsfeed, timelines, and also you can comment or mention them in our comment box. Ladies and gentlemen, really I'm proud to be associated with IGP as a global member. I feel privileged to host this webinar, and I'm very happy to welcome you all to our Institute of Global Professionals. Yes, and I'm sure that you all will have many takeaways and payoffs from this webinar. Each time you can give or react and comment in our comment box. Also, don't forget to give a thumbs up to our Facebook official page and subscribe our YouTube channel. We have a new page for our junior learner, IGP Kids. So don't forget to give a thumbs up to our new page that is IGP Kids. All right, you can also share this live in Facebook groups, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and all the social media you are currently using. Yes. So once again, thank you so much for joining with us. And I'm requesting all of you, don't forget to tag, share, and mention your friends in our comment box. And also be active in our live program because IGP provides 3 lifetime membership certificates among our participants in every session, and it's depending on your active perceptions. So be active. And we have also our highlighting part quiz competition. And we have our speaker presentation, Q&A session, and finally we will share the international webinar code in the end of our program. So you have to stay with us till the end. So right now let's see our comment section first. So already we have a lot participants who have joined with us and commenting in our comment box. So I can see the name, Sir Nelmark Soy. Good evening, sir. We have Ma'am Dela Cruz, Ma'am Jessica, Ma'am Evelyn, Ma'am Carmela, Ma'am Cherry, Sir Salah. We have Ma'am Jessil. Okay, Ma'am Ashley, Ma'am Isaiah, Sir Ma'am Christine, Ma'am Day, Ma'am Josephine. Ma'am Mariel and so many participants have already commented and mentioning their friends. Thank you so much, Ma'am Lean, for joining YouTube. Ma'am April, Ma'am Fernandez, thank you so much. And I'm telling you once again and requesting everyone, please mention at least your 5 friends in our comment box. Yes. So I'm going to share a little concept about IGP. So Institute of Global Professionals is an educational institute providing social holistic work. IGP believes that it's not effective to increase one skill just by acquiring formal education. So that is why we provide effective training and consultation to generate proficient generation all over the globe. We organized our webinar, online, offline courses, etc. by best and trained speakers from all over the globe to create a best learning platform for all of you. IGP serves students and community resource, providing holistic social work and education for create a competent generation. We make it get able to use for every knowledge seeker to engineer their personality more ambitious, make confident to face any circumstance and develop own skills. We are entrusted with international recognition. IGP is leading an online skill development institute with thousands of learners worldwide. So, this is a great opportunity to learn here. And let me tell you that IGP is a non-profit international educational training institute. Dear participants, we have successfully completed our 678 member webinar, and today I'm going to present webinar number 679 that I've already shared with you. The topic is dynamic assessment and educational inclusivity. Alright, so let's start our program with IGP's mantra that is feed your skills. You can also comment in our comment box with hashtag feed your skills hashtag IGP. Alright, so let's welcome our wonderful speaker from Philippines, Dr. Melchor Kaiwan. Yes, he is a master teacher one in Cameling School for Home Industries. Also, he is an associate professor in Institute of Graduate and Professional Studies. Okay, so let's welcome with a virtual round of applause for our speaker. Hello, sir. Good evening. You're on
Hi, good
screen.
evening. Good evening to my fellow lifelong learners from North Pole to South Pole. Good day to all. First and foremost, I'd like to express my gratitude for the Institute of Global Professionals for the opportunity given to speak my mind about dynamic assessment and educational inclusivity. Shout out also to my students at Lyceum Northwest University IGPS. Thank you for being here in this platform. Hope you will actively participate. So I'm supposed to start my presentation with a video coming from my students. It's one of their multimodal compositions, but due to copyright infringement, just the musical background, I was advised to remove it in the presentation. So I'm going to start with a picture, as you can see on the screen. It's a picture that mirrors the typical situation, the typical scenario in our classroom. We see ourselves as the teacher at the center, and then we are facing diverse group of students. And this group of students brings with them their own experiences. They brings with them their upbringing in their respective families. And as a teacher, we are here trying to embrace their differences. And even though we all have our own battles, we have our own struggles in life, the moment we
Sir,
progress and we
I'm really sorry to interrupt that there is a sound coming from your, I think, another device.
wait, I'm back now. Is it clear now? Have
Yes,
I reduced the noise in the background?
now it's clear, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Let's
you, sir.
continue. The teacher at the center faces different individuals with different personalities, while the teacher has his or her own struggles, has his or own struggles, adversities in life. As a professional teacher, he or she tries his or her best to look better in front of his or her students. Now, day in and day out, we encounter students, and what we see is just the tip of the iceberg. We only see their faces, but there are so many circumstances behind their faces, behind their gestures, behind their actions. I'd like to share some true to life stories of my students in my almost more than 2 decades of teaching experience. There was this student who was who got pregnant 5 months before the graduation. She was grade 10 then, and she was about to finish her high school, but the news circulated in the school about her teenage pregnancy, unwanted pregnancy. And what aggravated the situation was the fact that she bore a child out of wedlock. And of course, that news was sort of alarming on the part of the teachers, on the part of the members of the administration, because of course, before 10 years back, to the issue on teenage pregnancy is a big deal for the teachers as well as the administrators, because for them, um, it put the situation, put the school in bad light. Okay. And so we had this emergency meeting, and then that was part of the agenda. It was brought out before the body if what we are gonna do with this student who who was pregnant 5 months before the graduation. Would we allow her to continue attending her classes, and then everybody gets to see her? Would we allow her? So that's the question. Of course, 10 years back, we had this conservative position as to the issue that was laid before the table. The majority of the teachers said, of course not. Being pregnant could be a ground, okay, that's related to a moral issue, and that was that is an enough ground for her to be out of the school. And then suddenly, I, of course, also expressed my position on the issue. And I told them that, of course, we are here to help the student. We're here to help her because right now, for sure, her own family rejected her. She also experienced condemnation from her friends, from her relatives, and from the community because of this unwanted pregnancy. Now, where if nobody is willing to show her care, her willing to show her concern, then who else will do that? And I think the school is one of the social institutions that should show compassion when our students are struggling, okay, when our students had failures in life. So that was her name. Okay, that's just one story. And then here comes another student of mine. He just graduated. He just completed grade 10. And then I noticed he chose the so-called face to face. He was part of the limited face to face classes, but then I noticed he had been absent for several weeks. And of course, as a teacher, we should know why he had been absent for quite some time. And then he answered, and his answer really struck my heart when he said, "Sir, sorry, because I need to work. We don't have rice right now, and if I'm not gonna work, my siblings had no food to eat, including my mother. So I'm the breadwinner of the family. So please do understand my situation." Okay. And I did a follow up. I did a home visitation and I discovered that the student was really impoverished. His family was really living in dire poverty. I could sense that when I saw the house, okay, including, I also learned during the visitation that his mom, okay, had this got paralyzed, okay, and so she was not in good shape, and that prompted the guy to excuse himself for a while in schooling in order to work and eventually earn money for so that when he goes home he has something to share with his siblings. Okay, that's another story. Then here comes one student again who said, "Sir, I'm quitting. I'm dropping out." "And why? Why are you dropping out?" He answered, "I am in the modular modality, okay, digital modular. I'm just dependent on my cell phone to download. Unfortunately, I dropped my cell phone and then here it is. The LCD is not working and I couldn't read the modules." And another one, 8 years ago, there was this student who who excelled in sports, and he represented our division. He represented, yeah, our division in the regional athletic competition. And as a consequence, he was absent for 2 months. And instead of the natural reaction of some subject teachers was to drop him because he was absent for 2 months. Okay. And of course, there was a consultative meeting that happened to decide whether he will be taken back or not. He will be dropped automatically because he was absent for 2 months. And so we came up with a consensus. Let's give him a chance. These students, we call them struggling students. We call them low performing students. What else? How do we call them? Struggling, low performing students, delinquent. That's the worst adjective I can think of to describe. And we've been using that before. Okay, delinquent students. My question is, knowing their circumstances, we already know their circumstances. Should their education stop? A lot of you right now might think that this is a sheer rhetoric, but my goodness, this is a question that needs to be answered. It This one leads to the pressing issue of allowing our students to continue schooling. And in case they experience failures or they are at a disadvantaged circumstance, should we allow them to continue schooling? Or should we be the institution that will stop, that will put a period in their journey towards searching for themselves, searching for their own identity, and finding their own respective niche in this world? Of course not. If there's only one institution that can give hope to these struggling students, to these sardos, students at risk of dropping out, the school shouldn't top the list. Okay? The school should act as an institution that will give hope to these struggling students. Is there a place for a student like Mark who is selling ukay-ukay just to make ends meet? Is there a place for Louise who got pregnant at an early age and she bore a child out of wedlock? Is there a place for Mark Lester who is constrained to participate fully in the teaching learning process because he doesn't have the right gadget? He doesn't have working gadget, so to speak. Do they have the place in our educational system? Obviously, okay, from the point of view of the teacher, the answer should be a big yes. Yes, okay? There's hope for them, and there is a place for them to redeem themselves. And what place is that? It's inclusive educational system. In an inclusive educational systems, the schools, okay, as learning institutions, definitely they offer a distinct type of education. And by the way, before I proceed, a while back, I asked my students at Lyceum Northwestern University to participate in the Pool Everywhere, and I got their points of view. I got their ideas. What do they think of if they hear the word inclusive education? From the screenshot of the result of the word cloud, obviously, okay, based on the font size, education. For us, inclusive education is a type of education. What other words are very prominent in that screenshot? Okay, you have the word diversity. Yes, diversity, learners. So it's an inclusive education. From the word cloud, we can deduce that inclusive education is a type of education that caters learners. What kind of learners? Diverse learners. Okay. Another word is opportunities. Inclusive education as a philosophy, okay, aims to provide opportunities to diverse learners. And you also mentioned their equality. Okay. Thanks for this one. In an inclusive educational system, the schools are mandated, are duty bound to offer an inclusive education. And how do we characterize an inclusive education? Inclusive education should be available, it should be accessible, acceptable, adaptable, and afforded to all. There are five A's which we can use to describe what an inclusive education is. Inclusive education should be available to all, accessible to all, acceptable to all, adaptable, and afforded to all because education is a fundamental right. It is recognized by the United Nations. It's a fundamental right that the member states of the United Nations should continuously uphold, protect, at the same time promote. Not just the member of the United Nations, but also as a member of the Southeast Asian nations, there is this framework that promotes the concept of education for all, education for sustainable development. And as a member country of the Southeast Asian nations, we are duty bound again to integrate these concepts in our educational system. The fundamental law of our land, the Constitution itself, provides for this one inclusive education. Okay. Now, so those are the five A's of inclusive education. The key word is education should be given to all, regardless of your ability, regardless of your ethnic origin, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of your socio-economic status. Education is a fundamental right, and in no way that we deny our children, we deny a learner, even if that learner has impairment, more so because they are less, we should, they are less privileged, and so therefore we should give them more. Okay, that's also the concept of equity. Okay, let's continue. What is inclusive education? It's a process of systematic reform in education. Yes. So inclusive education is a philosophy. It's a practice on the making. Yes. It's a process because inclusive education is new. Okay? Unlike before, we education has become a stratifying factor, okay, such that we segregate, we classify students from a special class to the mainstream class. We even classify students based on socioeconomic status, those who wear complete uniform, those who are wearing slippers, and unknowingly, okay, we are promoting discrimination with these practices. And recently, we realized that no, in no way that education should only be given to the privileged few. Education is a fundamental right, and there's the school as an institution should not in any way hinder any individual who wants to learn, who wants to educate himself or herself. Okay, so it's a reform, it's a change in the educational landscape, the inclusive education. It's a change. And of course, if we initiate a change, if we have conceptualized a change, we have our goal in mind. You are institutionalizing this change, you are introducing change because we want all students to participate in learning experiences with their same age peers. From the phrase their same age peers, it follows that in inclusive education, we are aiming for zero dropout rate, zero retention rate, but 100% promotion rate. And we are aiming for 75% and above achievement rate. Okay? And in a safe learning environment. Of course, how can we encourage our students to like schooling if in the first place our own institution is not safe? It's good that in the Philippines, okay, in the Department of Education, we instituted this reform known as school-based management. And the school-based management has four domains. One of the tools there for monitoring and evaluation is the child-friendly school tool, child-friendly school survey instrument. And it's good that we have that tool or instrument because any time of the school year, we can float that questionnaire and ask our students to answer that. And we can use the data from our students taken in the natural testing condition, okay, without pressure, of course, without threatening them. We ask our students to answer this questionnaire. And there will be rich data, of course. We can generate rich data from our students. And that process is called in SBM listening to the voice of the students, listening to the voice of the learners. Okay. Now, That is our goal. Where are we heading to? Where do we go from there? We want all learners, regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of the color of the skin, regardless of mental abilities, regardless of the interests, okay, their hobbies, we welcome them. We embrace their differences. And what are the two steps we can take in order to achieve that goal? I have two R's. Number one is recognize. What are we recognize? We should recognize that in the real sense of the world, there are barriers. There are barriers to that goal. It's not an easy journey. It's a gargantuan task to achieve the ultimate goal of this change. We need to recognize that there are barriers. Number one, physical barrier. Physical barrier. The vertically challenged student, we do have a vertically challenged student, but in no single instance we let him feel that he is special, that he is vertically challenged. No. In fact, he just joined the moving up ceremony. The mental barrier, the social barrier, political barrier, and environmental barrier. These barriers, given the chance, given the choice, you're not gonna choose to live with these barriers. But of course, in inclusive education, we accept who you are. We even empower you. We even give you the voice to accept who you are and be proud of your identity. Because it's only through acceptance, okay, of these barriers, acceptance, recognizing these barriers, that we get to think of programs, projects, and activities that will reduce, if not remove at the onset, these barriers. Okay? Next, okay, the second step, it starts with letter T, and the verb is take. You take actions. It's not enough that you recognize. Recognition should be coupled with taking actions. You walk your talk, okay? You take actions. How do you integrate the principle of sustainable education in our policy, in our curriculum, in our pedagogy and assessment? Of course, education, sustainable education as a practice, okay, is a practice, should radiate along these four elements of the educational system, from policy to assessment, and in no way that they should contradict each other. They should, okay, exist in concert with one another. So take actions, the policy, curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment. Now, let's take it one by one. Curriculum. To our viewers from outside of the Philippines, of course, please allow me to present our context here in the Philippines. And as a teacher in the public school system, um, please allow me to present what we've been doing in the department, what the Department of Education has been doing in order to achieve this goal of no child left behind. Okay, this sustainable education, at the same time inclusive education. Let's start with the curriculum. We at present we have the K to 12 curriculum. And what's so unique about the K to 12 curriculum? It embraces the concept of sustainable education, okay, of inclusive education. How? The K to 12 curriculum has its general curriculum. That means the subjects, the experiences will all be, okay, at the disposal, will all be within the reach of our students. So we have the general curriculum. But on top of that general curriculum, we have special curricular programs that cater to diverse interests, diverse talents, that cater to multiple intelligences. As a result, we have a special program for journalism, a special program for the arts, a special program for technical vocational education, special program for sports, a special program for foreign languages. And then here comes the senior high school. And how does the senior high school curriculum promote or operationalize the concept of inclusive education by offering tracks. And in each track, there are strengths. Who's deciding which strength, which track to take? Of course, the students. We listen to them. We give career guidance to them based on the results of assessment data. But at the end of the day, the learner is the one deciding which track to take, which strand to take, which special curricular program to be in, whether he or she's just going to take the general high school curriculum, or he or she wants to specialize in a specific field. And so he or she is going to enroll himself or herself in the special curricular program. Okay, next, in terms of pedagogy, we all know and we've been practitioners of these methods, of these approaches. And I have three things in mind. Number one is differentiation. How do we differentiate? We differentiate the content in order to cater, okay, individual differences in our classroom. We also differentiate the product. We also differentiate the process. We differentiate the setup. Okay? And speaking of differentiation, the with the post-pandemic and at the same time the education during the COVID-19 pandemic, with the department differentiated in terms of learning modalities. Okay, so you can differentiate instruction in terms of modalities, whether it's digital, modular, radio based, or TV based instruction. And this is also my favorite. In fact, I delivered a talk about contextualization. Contextualization. Why? Why do we need to contextualize? Because whether we like it or not, learning doesn't exist in vacuum. Learning is a social phenomenon and it happens in the social milieu. And when you speak of society, you cannot do away with culture. Okay? You cannot do away with local culture, local beliefs. And this local culture definitely is part of the consciousness of our students. When they attend our classes, they bring with them these experiences. Imagine you are dealing with 50 students, and each student has its own story, has her, okay, has his own story to tell. And you see, we need to recognize that in an inclusive educational system. Just a review, contextualization has its two forms. We have indigenization. Okay, indigenization, again, we have the IPED, okay, Indigenous Peoples Education Program, and the materials there need to be indigenized to make it culturally responsive, culturally relevant. Okay. Another version, another version of contextualization is localization. You are, well, I'm from Kamiling, Tarlac, Philippines, and Kamiling is known for its chicharon, and I can use that, the write up about chicharon, okay, chicharon Kamiling, as a reading text. So I'm localizing the teaching of reading skills among my students. And this one, the third one, I included here because it's um, it's the trend now, and it's still a virgin area of research. We're talking about universal design for learning. What is UDL? Let's allocate more time to discuss this UDL because for me, and I guess even in the Philippines, this is an innovation, an innovative pedagogical approach. So we need to at least discuss. Okay, we have lengthy discussion about this. So universal design for learning. It's an educational approach that understands and values diversity. It applies this understanding to facilitate accessible and equitable learning. Accessible and equitable learning. And this is characterized by multiple means of engagement, of representation, and of expression. This is what is so distinct about UDL because once you use this as a method, then the teacher has to provide opportunities for different learners, okay, for multiple means of engagement, of representation, and of expression. What do we mean by means of engagement? Okay, here is on the left side you have there the learner. Okay, and what strategy is recommended? What strategy can we employ in order to increase the means of engagement? Okay, the first learner is a visually impaired learner. What strategy can we use in order to increase the means of engagement? We create text based resources that learners can vary the size of text. It's true. The font size, okay, like me, if I don't wear my glasses, I can't read what I am presenting right now. Okay, and the best way for me to reduce the barrier is make sure that when I read digital text, the font size is large enough for me to recognize it. Okay, what about the underachieving learner? How will you intensify the means of engagement of an underachieving learner? Strategy, you provide text or spoken equivalents of images, graphics, videos, or animation. Related to this is an approach, at the same time, theory in the field of language teaching. We call it multimodal language teaching approach. Okay? The theory of multimodality. When we employ several modes of communication, then we, okay, provide our students resources for meaning making. Okay. Next, how do we increase the means of representation? For an introvert learner, here is one strategy. You provide text spoken equivalents of visuals. What about for an auditory impaired learner? One strategy, you can try this out, or maybe you've already tried this in your classroom or you did this in your classroom. Use physical objects to show perspective interactions. Okay. Another characteristic of universal design for learning, of course, the means of action and expression. What strategy can we suggest to a learner with anxiety? Okay, have students create mind maps to structure understanding. What about for English language learners? In countries where English is used as a foreign language, okay, there is a limited, the domains for English language use are limited. That's why it's the status of English there is English as a foreign language. You allow students to use technology tools, text to speech, software, translation tools. I remember in 2003, I was invited to join a language camp, and we had Koreans, okay, as the clientele in that short program. I noticed that when my students use translation tools, when the task is it's a writing task. Okay. Next, how do we achieve, sorry, um, our goal, typographical error? Okay, we are done with curriculum and pedagogy. What about in assessment, which is another element of an inclusive educational system? I have four keywords here to describe what an inclusive assessment technique, assessment approach is. There are four important words: option, voice, space, authenticity. Option, of course, we should give our students the freedom to choose. Okay? We should give choice. Okay? And what strategies can we try out in our own classroom? Number one, a tic-tac-toe board in which students choose three homework options in a row to complete by the end of the week. A checklist of options, each with varying point values in which students must complete at least 100 points worth in any combination they choose. By the way, before moving on to the second assessment aspect, option. How do we give our students option? Number one, we vary the texts we use in assessment. We vary the text difficulty. We also vary the task difficulty. And lastly, we try to vary the cognitive processes involved. And how do we do that? We see to it that when we formulate questions applying Bloom's taxonomy, okay, that the items are well distributed from knowledge to creation, or if we are using the solo taxonomy, okay, make sure that we use the four structures of cognitive processing. The four structures of cognitive processing are well represented in our assessment test. Next, voice. In an in a sustainable educational system, in schools which practice inclusive education, we give our students voice. Okay? How? How do we give our students a voice? One strategy is to build in opportunities for learners to provide their input on how classroom tasks are designed. Here, assessment is a consultative endeavor. Okay? It's through consultation, it's through collaboration, consultation between the assessor and the assessee. It's very typical in an inclusive assessment approach. Another one is require learners to reframe course objectives into their own personal learning outcomes. In curriculum development, we have this term, negotiated syllabus. Yes, the syllabus is not fixed. Unlike what we normally do, we prepare a teacher-made syllabus, and that's ready-made. You are ready to distribute that on the first day of the school year, on the first day of the classes. But now, in okay, in an inclusive educational system, syllabus is negotiated, and it's a process. Okay? You keep on changing it depending on the needs and interests of your students. And that is possible. Within 6 months, the interest, okay, the needs of students change. There can be a significant change in the choices, in the interests of the students for 6 months or for 5 months or for 1 year. And therefore, that situation allows okay, the, use of negotiated syllabus. Okay, voice. We're done. So the third option, voice and space. Yes, an inclusive assessment, okay, celebrates room for learning. And when you assess, you have this initial idea that assessment is not the be all and end all. It's not even a one size fits all practice. But when you assess, you believe that there is room for improvement. Okay? There is room for improvement. We don't assess students to punish them. Assessment is not a form of punishment. In fact, assessment, okay, as seen from the through the lens of inclusive education, assessment is a form of scaffolding. Assessment is a form of help we extend to our students. What strategies can we use to make sure that our assessment celebrates space for learning? You ask students to reflect on their learning at the end of each class. Yes, you have their exit sleep feedback form. Give learners feedback frequently in a timely manner. Yes, frequently in a timely manner. Aren't you wondering why you need to participate in an online quiz bee after my talk? I believe, I have this strong conviction that Institute of Global Professionals believes that for learning to be effective, for learning to leave an intelligible mark, it has to be done outright. It has to be done frequently. Okay? And finally, you give feedback in different formats. Of course, the inclusive education does not promote the abandonment of the traditional forms of assessment, like multiple choice, fill in the blank, okay, matching type. No. But it encourages, of course, the use of the alternative forms of assessment, okay, like the use of the grasp, the use of rubric in scoring, the test, okay, in scoring the test, the use of rubric in evaluating the performance. So you give feedback in different formats. And unlike before, feedback is just a sole main source of feedback is the teacher. But now in inclusive educational system, feedback should come from peers. Feedback should come from the members of the family, the members of the community, even friends on FB. um that could be the rationale, that could be the reason behind this practice of asking our students to upload their latest products, okay, done in school, and then based on the comments coming from their friends. Those are forms of feedback, and they are very much necessary in order for our students to know where they are, to know their potentials out of our feedback. Okay, and finally, it's about authenticity. Yes, inclusive educational system, it the authentic assessment is embedded in it. Okay, it's one of its principles. When we speak of authenticity, the task, the assessment task reflects the real world situation. Okay, authenticity in that you give audience. Okay, you specify the target audience of the product or the performance you are asking from your students. Who will be the audience? Who will be the consumer of your product? And in what setting, in what situation, in what domain? All these things are enumerated, presented before the students, okay, before you allow them to do a performance test or you ask them to create a project. So there should be authenticity. Authenticity in the sense that the task reflects, mirrors, okay, real life situations, not only about future, okay, future situations now, the here, the present, including the future situations, because education in this philosophy, okay, called so, inclusive education. Education is not just preparation for life; it's life itself. Okay, so you have there the assessment aspects of inclusive education. when it comes to assessment. We, of course, promote authenticity. We allow our students to have voice, to have option, okay? And then to have space for learning. Okay? And this is it. We're now moving on to the main course. Okay, this is the meat of my talk is about dynamic assessment. What is dynamic assessment, and what is its relationship to the implementation of inclusive education? Dynamic assessment is assessing for growth of learning or potential. The word there is growth because, okay, one of the constructs of dynamic assessment is it um, there is this analogy of or metaphor as to the malleability or the plasticity of the human brain. Okay, the malleability, the plasticity, and so given the right scaffolding, there is room for improvement, even students with impairment. Okay, that's one of the principles of dynamic assessment. And assessing for rate of learning. Yes. Dynamic assessment necessitates engaged understanding of the unique attributes of the individual being assessed. Yes, we start from where the students are by profiling our students, and then we provide the necessary mediation in order to assist them such that they're going to reach their zone of proximal development. Okay, they can maximize their potentials. Okay. Dynamic assessment, if a student, okay, one, okay, assumption, if a student can improve an initial performance when aided, potential exists with which much can be achieved. That brings us to the theoretical framework of dynamic assessment. And here is Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. We have three concentric circles. Okay, I shall be calling the first the inner circle, what I can learn on my own. What I can learn on my own. And how do you get data in order to gauge what your students can learn on their own? It's through pre-tests. Okay. And then after taking the pre-test, of course, you have there the second, we call it the outer circle, and that's where the zone of proximal development. You teach, okay, you administer the pre-test, then you move on, you teach. And teaching here in Vygotsky's theory, social cultural theory means mediation, okay, scaffolding. Okay? So through mediation, through technology and tools, and then through interaction with the knowledgeable others. Who are the knowledgeable others? The teachers, the members of the school community, the members of the FB community. Some of them are knowledgeable others because they have acquired expertise, okay, in the competency or knowledge that is being assessed, and then of course the technology and tools, the instructional materials. Okay. Learning is mediated through the child's interaction with technology and tools, interaction with the knowledgeable others. And it is believed that when mediation, okay, scaffolding has been done successfully, then we expect growth. We expect, okay, a rate of learning that is significant compared with the results of the pretest. Okay. But the third one, the expanding circle, that is beyond my reach. Okay? Beyond. So it's like you are deviating from the Goldilocks principle. Not too easy, not too difficult. Okay, it's beyond one's reach. It beyond one's comprehension. And that is discouraged, of course, by in inclusive educational system. That is being discouraged for you to think of tasks, for you to think of activities which to your mind can be done even by adult learners, even by professionals. Why are we asking our students to do those tasks, to do those things? Are we not asking too much from them? Are we helping them when we do that? Of course not. We're punishing them because we are, okay, giving them opportunities that will demotivate them, that will dampen their morale because the task is beyond their reach. They can't do it on their own. They can't even do it with the help of the teacher because it's beyond their reach. Okay? So, how do we operationalize the principles of dynamic assessment? Okay. I'm presenting here the pre-test and post-test results of a group of students. Okay. I administered a pre-test, and as you can see, their scores under the first column, and then you have there the post-test scores under the second column. Okay. Now, in the psychometrics tradition, okay, I'm sorry, psychometrics tradition, okay, the post test of 15, which represents 75% under the psychometrics tradition, that is a good score because it meets the threshold level of 75%. In our assessment system here in the Philippines, that is very satisfactory. Okay, the descriptive equivalent is very satisfactory. 75% is the threshold level. That is under the psychometric tradition. Hooray if you got 15 in the post test. Okay. But of course, as you can see, your students at the onset, okay, at the onset, based on the scores, the performance is varied. Some got low scores like 5, okay, average score 10 or 15. And here you are trying to provide the necessary mediation through your instructional materials, through your chosen, okay, procedure, techniques, and strategies. You want them to master a specific competency. You want them to master a specific disciplinal knowledge. Then you are expecting them that after your 1 hour or 2 hour instruction, your students who at the onset are diverse, okay, based on their scores, you want them, okay, you want them to, you are expecting them to have the same absorptive capacity such that after your instruction, after 1 hour instruction, you expect them to get 15 at a minimum 15 to 20 in a 20 item test. Is that fair? Imagine the initial score of our student, of your student, is 5, and you want to push him, you're pushing him so much, you are pushing her so much to that threshold level. Hence, in the inclusive educational system, definitely that's a no. Okay. In contrast to the psychometric tradition, we have this the humanistic tradition of assessment. After all, we assess our students to give them the necessary scaffolding, the necessary support system to build their self-confidence. Because it all starts with having that positive self-image. It all starts with letting them feel that they can succeed in your assessment. And after establishing that positive attitude, then everything follows. Okay. It all starts with building a self image. And you can do that if you make use of the psychometric tradition. What we need, based on the supporters of the inclusive educational system, inclusive education, we need is a humanistic approach, and dynamic assessment is one. Dynamic assessment. And how does that work? Okay. In dynamic assessment, as long as there is an increase in the score of your student based on the post test, okay, there is an increase from pre-test, let's say 5, and then your student got 6 in the post-test. In dynamic assessment, that is acceptable. You need to recognize the child. You need to praise the child because somehow we're not talking here of statistical significance. Is the difference due to chance? Is the increase due to chance? Is it statistically significant? Of course. When we're talking of statistical significance, that is under the psychometric tradition. On the contrary, dynamic assessment, which is under the humanistic tradition, as long as there is an increase, okay, in the score, using the pretest as the baseline, then there should be recognition. You call it a success. Okay, the mediation is successful. Okay, now the question is, some of you here might be at the back of their mind, they're asking, what about following the assessment policy in our own department, which sets the threshold level of 75%? Okay? So, what is 75% of 20? Definitely it's 15. Okay? So, again, if we require our students to get a score of 15 when their initial score is 1 or 2, are we bringing them to this expanding circle that is beyond their reach? Okay. So we have two extremes right now, the psychometric tradition, humanistic tradition, and this time dynamic assessment. And I myself thought of trying to be at the center. Okay. And I thought of the so called absative, contextualized absative assessment. What is the principle behind contextualized absative assessment here, at least in my own school? Okay, what is contextualized absative assessment? You consider the pre-test score 5, and in this assessment approach, assessment scoring, okay, test, you are aiming at the 75% change of change in the rate of learning. For example, 5, okay, is the previous score. You get, what is the 75% of 5? You get the 75% of 5. And the 75% of 5 here is 8.75. So you add this 75% from the baseline score, that gives you the threshold level, the 75%, okay, change in the rate of learning. In other words, student C needs to get at least 13.5, 13.75, or 14 in a 20 item test. Okay? So that we can say that the student has demonstrated mastery of the competency being assessed. So here, 5 is the pre-test, and then you add 8.75, so 14. What is the score of student C? It's 15. Is that something to celebrate? Is that something to recognize? Of course, because the threshold level applying the contextualized absative assessment, okay, is 13.75 or 14. While it's evident here that the score in the post test is 15. Okay, so um, let's have the case of student C, 5 and then 15, the post test. In the psychometric tradition, 15, of course, is a passing score. It's 75%. But in dynamic assessment, compare 5 and then 15, there is a gain score of 10. In dynamic assessment, okay, That is a good indicator of improvement. Okay? 10 points. The gain score is 10. But in absative, contextualized absative assessment, is still we are still applying the 75% threshold level, okay, in our as a policy. Then we are expecting at least 13.75 as a as an acceptable score to be described as having satisfactorily, okay, very satisfactory performance. Okay. Next, so that's it. Again, for here, for the sake of curiosity, I because I'm trying to differentiate the psychometric tradition and the humanistic tradition. Of course, under the psychometric tradition, we're always after the significant difference, and I did run this course. Okay, using the paired t-test, and the pre-test here is 10.24 and then 13.86 in the mean. Okay, that's the post test. In the post test, question: under psychometric tradition, is this acceptable? Yes. At the same time, no. It's yes because the increase in the post test mean is significant. It's no because the mean score in the post test is 13.86 when standardized testing or norm reference testing dictates that the post test, the threshold level should be 15. Based on the results of the post test, what will be the decision here? Are you going to reteach or you're just going to hold a remedial class? The decision here, based on the psychometric tradition, since it did not meet the threshold level of 75, is to reteach because the entire group has not shown mastery, has not shown a very satisfactory performance as far as the target competencies that they are concerned. Okay, so it's pre-test and then the post-test. What about in dynamic assessment? Dynamic assessment, 10.24 pre-test and in the post-test, 13.86 plus it's statistically significant. This is a big hooray. Okay, within, okay, the lens of dynamic assessment under the humanistic approach. What about in the mean test? What about the in the contextualized absative assessment? 10.24, the 75% of that is 2 point something. Okay, 2.5, 10, and then that's 0.75. Now, under contextualized absative assessment, the post-test mean did not meet the threshold level. Okay, so we've tried to distinguish three, okay, two approaches: the psychometric tradition and then the humanistic tradition. Under humanistic tradition, we presented here two methods. The first one is dynamic assessment, and then another one is the contextualized absative assessment. Okay. Now, so simply put, okay, when we talk about dynamic assessment, we are empowering the individual. The purpose of assessment is to help the individual, okay, to bring the individual to success. Okay, and then the needs and interests of the individual are at the center of the assessment process, an ongoing process, and regards chance within the child as the criterion. What is the sole criterion? It's about the change. It's about the rate of learning. When there is an increase in score, then the mediation is successful. The instruction is said to be successful. Okay. Basically, for this entire talk, I'd like to present the things that I shared with you tonight following this paradigm, this framework. Of course, we tried to discuss in detail the big concept of sustainable education. And sustainable education, it has to be accessible, afforded to all. Okay? And then this sustainable education can only take place in our respective schools, in our organization, if there are enough structures and processes, effective and efficient structures and processes in place. Okay, at the operational level, we see these structures and processes supporting sustainable education through the input of the so-called sustainable or inclusive, inclusive education. And what's the input? Policy, curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment. What is the expected output? An educated and engaged citizenry. Okay? No child left behind, and everybody gets the opportunity. Everybody gets what is enshrined in the policies of the United Nations, enshrined in the Philippine Constitution. Okay, I'd like to end with this. Okay, what three words I associate with dynamic assessment in order to establish the connection between dynamic and assess sustainable education. It's about, okay, we make reasonable adjustment. Okay, okay. Dynamic assessment. It talks about modification. We modify our practices such that we cater the needs of our students. We modify, okay, our practices in order to embrace the differences of our students. We accommodate the differences. We do not take against them, their differences. In fact, we celebrate their differences by accommodating these differences because we see that diversity is a strength in itself in our educational system. As the saying goes, the more, the merrier. Okay? So accommodation, it's about mediation. Okay. M for mediation, accommodation, and lastly, adjustments. Okay. At the onset, the as far as assessment is concerned, those who advocate, okay, inclusive education, inclusive sustainable education, okay, they believe that the human mind is malleable. Okay, it can be influenced by external factors by providing, okay, the appropriate scaffolding, by making sure that the support system is present. Okay, there is a chance, there is a room for improvement, there's a space for learning. And who's gonna adjust? Who's gonna make adaptation? Who's gonna modify? It will not be the student, especially in the basic education system. We are dealing with minors. Okay, they are very innocent, and who's gonna adjust? Not the students, okay, but we, the teachers, the system, the curriculum, the assessment practices, the instructional materials that are being developed. All of these, okay, are offshoot of the adjustments that are being made. Okay, reasonable adjustment, substantial adjustment, and extensive adjustment that, okay, take place not only in the family, not only in the school, not only in their church, not only in the micro system. For us to really achieve our goal of liberating all children, of educating all children, regardless of sex, regardless of orientation, regardless of socioeconomic status, adjustments have to be made from the micro system up to the chrono system. Chronos system is the environmental changes that occur over the life course. Yes, changes, okay? Change is constant. And as I said, we're not only talking here of inclusive education, but inclusive sustainable education, because we are instituting change not only for now, but we want that to foster, we want that to continue, 50 years from now, 60 years from now. Hence, the appropriate term for me is inclusive sustainable education. And in sustainable education, the key is adjustment. Who's going to adjust? Okay, the more knowledgeable members of the community, if I may borrow Vygotsky's phrase, the more knowledgeable members of the community, we, the teachers, the administrators, school heads, the parents, the members of the community, we should make the adjustment in order for every child to realize his or her potential. Okay? And that adjustment is not just for now, it's a lifelong process. Hence, I would like to again emphasize that adjustments have to be made by the different social institutions from the microsystem to the chronos system so that every child gets the education that he or she rightfully deserves. It all boils down again. This proves, okay, from this slide, this proves again the truthfulness, the application. Okay. Now, at the beginning of my presentation, I cited real life stories of struggling students, of low performing students, of students at risk of dropping out. And I presented to you their circumstances. Had the school system been, okay, so close-minded, okay, to simply reject these students, to simply drop these students from the list of graduating class, okay, we don't have, okay, students who are given the limelight, who are featured, okay, in newspaper or campus paper, and their stories really serve inspiration to their fellow students. I what Here is Giles Nimar M. Antonio. I met him when he was grade 7. He was so shy, okay? But I noticed that there is potential in him. I did not stop by just merely recognizing that he has potential. I took actions. And one bold step was asking him, okay, through encouragement, to be our school representative at Readathon. And according to him, sir, that break you gave me was the beginning. It was the beginning of all the opportunities. It opened doors for me. And I have already overcome my shyness, my speech pride, my stage fright. And I'm very happy to inform you, sir, that I am graduating as magna cum laude this school year at St. Louis University. He took political science. Imagine. And you see the picture here at the right hand corner, okay, wearing the supply CSHI. He is Mark Navarrete, my student, and he just joined the moving up ceremony. He was the same guy I was referring, okay, when I told his story about he broke his cell phone, okay, and so he couldn't join the online discussion, and he was about to quit. But I said, no, 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 no. There's no room for quitting. If that's the only problem, cell phone, we can ask sponsors. Okay, we can ask some benefactors to buy a cell phone. So, what adjustment? The adjustment originated from external stakeholders. Just imagine what would the future of these students be if
the school refused to make adjustments, if we teachers refuse to make adjustments, thank God there's word adjustment, there's word accommodation, there's a word adaptation, mediation, because all these words, okay, which underlie the principle of inclusive education, through these words, here we are celebrating success. The sharings I had this evening, they all boil down to this African proverb: it takes a village to raise a child. And to make sure that every child, okay, receives accessible education, relevant education, liberating education, we need to unite. And our actions should be in concert with one another, from the family to the school, from the government institutions, from external partners, from organizations. And I am thankful that even up to this time you're still awake, and then you are helping me finish this talk. We are one in improving our practices. We are united in broadening our perspectives through attending this webinar. Thank you very much, and I'm expecting questions coming from you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing this excellent presentation with our participants. And I have learned a lot from your presentation, sir. Thank you so much. And we will come back with you in our QA session after the quiz competition. So, till then, please stay with us. Thank you, sir. So, dear participants, it's time for quiz. Yes, I'm requesting all of our participants, please tag, share, and mention your friends in our comment box. And today, top 10 will be awarded with quiz completion certificates. So share these with your friends and your colleagues, also with your family members. You can also, if you mention them, they can also participate in this live quiz competition. Yes, and I have already shared the quiz code, that is quiz IGP. So the joining link will share in our comment box. Also, you can directly go to www.slido.com, give the code and your name that you want to print in quiz competition winner certificates. Yes, and there's another way to join in our quiz. That is, we will share the QR code. You can scan the code and directly just join this competition. Alright, so after the short video, we'll come back. And after the quiz segment, we will move to our Q&A segment with our honorary speaker. So get ready with your question or any kind of queries on the topic you want to know. So our speaker is ready to hear you. Alright, so enjoy the short video right now. once again, hello everyone for to our quiz competition segment, and we have shared the joining link in our comment box. So if you click it, you can directly join in this segment. Just put your full name because it will be printed in the certificate and give the code that is quiz ITP. Okay, and please stay with us till the end of our program because we will share the quiz. We'll share the international webinar code in our certification process so that you can get your certificates from our website. And not just one thing, that is there is no relation between the quiz completion certificates and the international webinar certificate. And right now we have 64 participants. Thank you so much to all of our participants, viewers, all the learners, and all the teachers for joining with us. And get ready with your question for our next segment. Alright, so we will start our live quiz segment within a minute. So hurry up, join with us. And we have right now 80 participants. So let's start countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's start it. Okay, so here is the first question. Which is not a model of dynamic assessment? Option number one, sandwich, and option number two, so your time is up. Correct answer is option number two, and 41% of our person got the correct answer. All right, so right now we have Ma'am Cheryl and Aaron Vante leading on top in our first round, following Ma'am Maria Genda Salina, Ma'am Saila May, and Villanova, Sir Melin Vigas, and Sir Ricky Arcali. So congratulations, the answer correct. Okay, so moving to next question. Teaching and learning in the IB includes a dynamic educational experience framed by option number one, inquiry, action, and reflection. Option number two, advanced inquiry learning. Okay, the right answer is option number one, inquiry, action, and reflection. 90% of the participants got the correct answer. Congratulations. So here is our leaderboard. All right. So let's see the next question. Dynamic assessment absolutely requires option number one, purposeful and intentional mediation. Option number two, a pre-test and a post-test. answer is option number one, and 57% of our participants goes with the correct answer. That is purposeful and intentional mediation. Okay, so you can see the leaderboard on the screen. All right, moving to next question. Who was the father of dynamic assessment? Option number one, Newman Furisten, or option number two, Samran Danishvar. Correct answer is option number one, and 78% of participants answer correctly. So here is the leaderboard. Okay, let's see the next question. Question number five. Why is formative assessment important? Option number one provides scaffolding for summative assessment. Option number two doesn't give feedback for developing skills. And the correct answer is option number one. 100% of all participants got the correct answer. All right. Here is our leaderboard. Still, Ma'am Cheryl leading on top. All right, moving to next question. An authentic assessment measures one's ability to perform. Option number one, a task in real life situations, and option number two, circles effects. Okay, so 100% of our participants got the correct answer. That is option number one, a task in real life situations. Congratulations, everyone. Okay, so let's see the next question. Question number seven. What are the four steps in the assessment process? Option number one, referral, student profile, eligibility determination. Or option number two, referral, eligibility determination, IEP or LRE. Correct answer is option number one, and 78% of our participants goes with the correct answer. Great. So still Ma'am Charil and El Infante leading on top in this round again. Okay, we have last three more questions. Let's proceed to the next question. Language and linguistic differences can influence educational outcomes. Option number one, true, and option number two is false. Correct answer is true, and all of our participants got the correct answer. Congratulations. Okay, so let's proceed to the next question. What is not included in an inclusivity policy? Option number one, celebrating diversity. Option number two, establishing low educational standards to include all. You have lost 5 seconds left to answer. Correct answer is option number two, and 85% of our participants got the correct answer. Great, Ma'am Cheryl and Ellen Bent is still leading on this round. Okay, we have lost one more question, then we will get our top 10 quiz competition winners. It's a true false. Dynamic is a type of risk assessment. True or false? Correct answer is true, and 47% of our participants got the correct answer. Congratulations, those answered correctly. Let's see our leaderboard and our top 10 quiz competition winners. So, congratulations, ma'am. Charilan El Infante, you are on top and you have done a great. Okay, so we have Ma'am Maria Jenda Salina Tidan placed second, Ma'am Ginaline Gino Resurrection placed third, Ma'am Junaliza Y Ginogali placed fourth, Ma'am Angeline Velasco placed fifth. Take a look to the next. Okay, we have Sir January Cindy placed six, Ma'am Ronila T. Anoyan placed seven, Ma'am Princess Matia placed eight, Ma'am Mohapi Malofu placed nine, and finally Ma'am Evelyn Piveteri placed 10. So congratulations to our top 10 quiz competition winners. Okay, so we will post your winner certificates to our Facebook official page. So after the program, we'll post it. Don't forget to collect your certificates. Yes. So thank you once again for your participations, everyone. And now we are moving to our next segment, question and answer. So please get ready with your question or query to ask our honorable speaker. And also, let me remind all of you again, don't forget to tag, share, and mention your friends in our comments. After this short video, we will come back with our lovely and brilliant speaker. Okay, enjoy this short video. Hello, sir. Welcome once again in our Q&A session.
We're ready for the Q&A.
Yes. So, dear participants, I'm requesting everyone if you have any question, please write down in our comment box.
Maybe next time, we give award to the participant who will give the first question.
That will be great.
Still waiting for your questions.
Yes, here is our first question. It's from Ma'am Evelyn Pibeper. She is a teacher. Okay, the Question is, good evening, sir. What do you think are the challenges of implementing inclusive education in the Philippines? Thank you.
Number one, the first challenge is the mindset that when we promote inclusive education, we are advocating mediocrity when it is not. Okay? So that's number one. We need to change our mindset. Inclusive education is not about lowering standards, but it's more on giving opportunities to all kinds of learners to receive education, which is a fundamental right. So that's the first thing. Before we even criticize here in the Philippines, we criticize when teachers um, pass their students. Okay, we have this thinking that it's mass promotion. Okay, and then mass promotion is associated with lowering the standards. But it's not just about that number. It's not just about the grades. Okay, it's inclusive education. It's about promoting positive mindset, positive disposition in life by capitalizing on the strengths of the individuals rather than the deficiencies of the students in our school. So that's number one challenge. It's the mindset. Also, we need to change our mindset. Okay, this is one very strong barrier in the implementation of inclusive education unless we change our perspectives of how things exist in our school. We always attribute inclusive education to lowering standards. So that's one. Because
Thank
I
you so
believe
much.
in terms of curriculum, our department has been supportive of inclusive education, curriculum wise, materials, the introduction of both the alternative delivery mode and the formal system education. And with this COVID, during COVID-19, the introduction of multimodalities. These are concrete actions initiated by our department, okay, to achieve the goal of inclusive education, which is education for all. It's just that we associate that negative mindset that when we are advocating inclusive education, it's tantamount to embracing mediocrity, which is not. It's just about celebrating diversity and giving every child the hope, giving every child the opportunity to acquire the basic competencies. After all, it's not just about having a diploma. When you go outside, we learn so many things outside of the school. Okay? Yes.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is from Sir Dr. Raj Narayan. Namaste. Okay. The question is, what would be the most effective assessment, sir?
Okay. The word there is effective. What is effective? If it gets the results, right? Your assessment technique is effective if it serves your purpose. For me, what is the best or most effective assessment? Number one, if it serves your purpose. Number two, it depends on your context. It depends on the nature of your learners. What is your purpose of assessing your students? Number two, it's effective if it doesn't punish the students, but rather it gives the students hope. It empowers the students to reflect both on it brings students, okay, to reflect both on their strengths and deficiencies. And an effective assessment motivates students to reinvest further in education by increasing their engagement, by increasing the time they spend in studying. That's the most effective assessment. Never that an assessment can be considered effective if it punishes the students, if it demotivates the students, if it inspires them to drop out of school. That's now effective assessment. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so next question is from Ma'am Jeremy. What specific steps can school administrators take to improve their inclusive education model?
Well, the school administrators have to put it in their school improvement plan, in their annual implementation plan, include programs, projects, and activities in their SIPs, and then annual implementation plans that are supportive of inclusive education. So planning is one. Because see, in our department, okay, here in the Philippines, unless the progress projects and activities are articulated in an official document, these are not binding. And to make it a little bit forced so that the rest of the members of the organization will support inclusive education model. Number one, okay, these principles, the programs, activities, projects supportive of inclusive education model need to be articulated in these planning documents, SIPs, AIPs. Number two, okay, efficient at the same time regular monitoring and evaluation. Okay? A good plan does not automatically translate to effective implementation unless there is efficient and effective monitoring and evaluation system. Then these plans cannot stand on their own. But when there is efficient monitoring and evaluation, and then every member of the organization is aware of these programs, projects, and activities, and they claim, I mean, they own it. They own these programs, projects, and activities. Then it would be easy to actually develop inclusive education.
Thank you so much, sir. Next question is from Mambrella Simulus. The question is, good evening, sir. What is the utmost challenges in the learning modality today in terms of assessing students' performance?
I think it's on the issue of reliability. So far as to validity, well, the quizzes, including the activities that we ask our students to do, are valid. They are stress content validity. But as to the reliability, practicality, yes, it's practical in terms of context. But in terms of reliability, how will we know that our students themselves answered these assessment tasks? We're not sure, okay? Because we cannot monitor where they are, their execution. So it's more on the issue of reliability. But as to practicality, as to validity, I think we administered valid assessment tools, practical also, based on their current situation. Okay? But as to the reliability, okay, take note that a valid test, okay, is not necessarily reliable. A test can be valid, but not reliable because when it is taken, okay, there are, okay, intervening variable circumstances that may have affected the results. In fact, right now, how do we know that the students who were given awards really, okay, possess the proficiency level they are afforded? Okay, so it's more on, I must say, the reliability of our assessment tools.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from MJD. How will you help students with special needs using inclusive education?
Okay. First, knowing them. Okay, knowing them fully well. That's the first step. Why, in the first place, you consider them as students with special needs. Okay, and you do it systematically. You profile your students, okay, to identify their needs. And from there, you plan a program, an individualized program. Okay? Remember that one of the key principles of inclusive education is individualization of the appropriate treatment, appropriate intervention. Okay, knowing your students well, and then designing a program that meets the needs of your student, and making sure that the structures, the processes, and the resources are in place to give way to the realization or optimum implementation of the program that you designed based on your initial diagnosis. Yeah.
Okay, next question is from Beverly. What if it's a child who excludes himself or herself from the class?
Okay. So the exclusion comes from the child himself or from the child herself. Well, you admit the fact that the child excludes herself. Okay, and then that's the barrier, right? Okay, the action of the child excluding himself or herself from the majority of the class. You recognize it, and then you do root cause analysis. You identify the barriers. Why is such a behavior demonstrated by your student? Maybe you can do background check. You can do home visit. You ask his or her friends, his or her family members, his or her parents, and from there you decide the interventions in relation to what you found out during your home visitation. Okay, so that's it.
So, okay, so we are taking the last question because of short of time. The
Yeah.
question is from Christine Joy. Good evening, Dr. Mel. Here is my question. So, in your opinion, do you believe that the full inclusion of special educational needs of students is possible in a mainstream classroom?
I think at this point we are not yet ready for the full inclusion, because right now what I have observed, okay, in the field is that integration, okay, integration such that one who is visually impaired joins the mainstream class, okay, but still it's more the visually impaired student is forced to do the activities, the tasks of the students in the class who are not visually impaired. Okay. And since this is new, I mean, the concept of inclusive education has been introduced recently by the Department of Education. My position is that right now it's not yet full inclusion. It's not yet full inclusion. We are. We have started embracing the principles of inclusive education, but we are not yet ready to fully implement all the principles. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for coming in our platform and sharing your knowledge with our participants. And I'm really appreciate the way you start your presentation. You share your experience story. So I love that portion of your presentation, really. So I'm really looking for another program with you. I hope so, and we'll have you. And thank you once again. So, do you wanna share any message for our participants?
Well, what can I say? Big thanks to all of you. Imagine you managed to stay until 10 a.m. You started at 8 a.m. and knowing your busy schedule and the need for you to juggle so many responsibilities, you still opted to stay until this time. That is very much appreciated. Thank you, everyone, and I hope that you learned something from my sharing tonight. Also, thank you to those who raised questions because somehow your questions tickle my mind. Okay, as they said, it's only through examining yourself by entertaining questions that you maximize your existence here on Earth. Thank you so much. Thank you to
Thank
Institute of Global Professionals. This is a one of a kind experience. Okay, I'm gonna treasure this. Thank you.
thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Have a great day, sir. All right, so dear participants, we are moving to our next segment in our certification process, and we will share the international webinar course. So it will be easy for you to collect your e-certificates from our website with the code. All right, so after the short Thanksgiving video, we'll come back. All right, so here is our certification process. The program name is Dynamic Assessment and Inclusivity. Yes, and the code is IGP 0217. Let me tell once again, the code is IGP0217, that is already flashed on our screen. Okay, so without this code, no one is eligible for certificates. And with code, you can claim your certificates anytime from our website. Okay, so also without an account, you can visit our website, but you cannot do anything functionally. Also, dear participants, visit our website. Our website address is www.eduigp.com. So visit our website, enroll the program, give the code, and just get your certificates. And also don't forget to celebrate with IGP. So thank you once again to all of our participants, all the learners for staying with us still with patiently. Thank you, and I hope that you have learned a lot from our speakers and today's topic. And I have also learned a lot from this session from our speakers, and I feel so great, really. So I'm thanking to our honorable speaker for having sharing his knowledge with us and coming in our platform. So, dear participants, thank you all of you once again, and I'm inviting to all of you to our next session tomorrow morning. So don't miss it. There is a famous quote from Sir Albert Einstein that is, "Once you stop learning, you start dying." So don't do that. Keep learning, keep growing, and stay with us in this long journey. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm Nasri Nisha signing off right now. Thank you once again to all of you who are watching this. Good night. Thank you.